Hey everyone, I wanted to put this video together to focus on one of the, I want to call it quirkiest rules of the APA style guide for creating references for your reference page. And it's the number one error I see on people's manuscripts, drafts of papers, whatever it is. And it's the number one thing that I give feedback on. So I hope that with this video, I'm gonna cut down on some of that in your final papers, maybe even your drafts. And it has to do with the capitalization rule of journal titles, book titles, journals, websites, and so on. And this is kind of a strange, I call it quirky, let me put it this way. I called it quirky earlier because no other citation style really kind of follows this kind of capitalization rule, but APA does. So for better or for worse, we're going to focus on that. So I pulled up here an entry of a journal article in the library catalog, Yoga for Dementia, a guide for people with dementia, their families and caregivers. And if you're like me, I'll do the same thing. I'm going to go over here a little bit. You'll have this wonderful button here called Cite, which will tell you how to cite this source. I pulled it up already here. As you see, the citation format appears up top, so I already clicked on this earlier. And so you can select here which format you want, AMA 11th edition, and there's the APA 7th edition. So what I frequently do is I just copy and paste this and put it on my Word document, which I will kind of demonstrate right here. Oh, let me do it differently. Let me copy and paste just the, no, let me do it this way. So it preserves the formatting that was done in the original version. So this all looks great. Let me go over this very quickly here. The Journal of Dementia Care. The title of the journal is in italics, and also the volume number. Not the issue number here, just the volume number and the journal title. That's another small quirkiness of APA, that the volume number is also italicized. And if you notice the capitalization of the dominant nouns in this journal title, the title of the actual journal, you see dementia care is capitalized, the D and the C. And that is correct. In the actual title of journals, of these periodicals, another term for it, major nouns are capitalized. This is different for titles of journal articles, titles of books, titles of websites, where only certain words in the title are capitalized. So this actually here, this wonderful thing that I copied from our library's catalog, is actually incorrect. So I see a lot of folks do this, a lot of writers do this, copy and paste, and think, oh, I'm good because, hey, it comes from, a website, or it comes from PubMed, or from, the catalog. And you rightfully would think it would be correct, but it's not. So here I would have to go and edit. Dementia needs to be lowercase. In this case, the A needs to be lowercase. I'll show you a different version in just a second. The G needs to be lowercase. The P and the D and the F in families, and so on, and then caregivers. Let me do this all the way through. All right, so this would be a correct APA citation. What's missing here is the DOI, but I don't think it might have had a DOI in 2018. It would have been included. There's always another option to do this and to double check if everything is done correctly. You can always go on, take a look at the actual article, and for that I'm going to go one back here to my actual original search. Give me a second. Here it is. There is my academic journal article. Here's a full text and other services. So let me see if we have access to the full text. No, I actually don't have access to the full text of this one. But let me see if there's another study where we could do this. So here is a review. Let me see if I have this also one. So if I had access to the full text here, for example, I have access. It's an ebook, so just FYI. So let's think this would be a journal article. You could click on the actual PDF file, and you can see if somewhere there would be a DOI hiding or anything like this. This is also a great way if you're missing the page number of the article. It's not somehow didn't come through in however you got the citation from. You can always click on the actual PDF file of the article and see the pagination on the bottom of those pages. So that's one way, again, that you have to check for correctness in terms of the capitalization. And also, just FYI, on the reference page, you would always indent the second and subsequent lines, and here you start the beginning. So this would be my first entry, Morris C. source. The same thing happens, the same inaccuracy happens not just on our catalog, but it also happens in PubMed. So I looked, here's an example of an article, a randomized controlled trial that was published in, let me see if I can, 2019, and I click on this wonderful button Cite, right? Some of you wrote about this mentioned this in some of your worksheets. And here I have different formats, less formats I can choose from. It gives me AMA, APA, MLA, and NLM. NLM is the National Library of Medicine, in case you're wondering. So we're going with APA. And so I'm going to just copy and paste this, right? And there you see the DOI format is actually correct, which is nice. And I'll copy and paste. And again, I choose this option, the merge formatting, so it'll preserve whatever formatting was done in there. And so the same thing happens here. If you look at the title of the actual article, all the major nouns or even some of the adjectives are capitalized, and that is incorrect. So I would have to go and edit this here. If you're using Mendeley or EndNote and you transferred and you copied and, well, not copied and pasted, but you uploaded this document in your Mendeley or EndNote folder and are using that, you have to make sure that in the entry in Mendeley and or EndNote, the actual title is correctly capitalized or not capitalized, depending on what you need. So Parkinson's disease, I'm going to leave capitalized because I sometimes see it capitalized. I'm not sure if the D is capitalized in Parkinson's. I would have to look that up. But let's just say Parkinson's disease, just like United States or France, is capitalized. And then the interesting thing happens here with the A. After a colon, which is usually a subtitle after it, this one here, the first word or the first letter of the word after the colon also stays capitalized. So, and then again, the R and the C and the T for RCT or randomized clinical trial should be lowercased. And interestingly enough, if you notice here in the journal title, neurology isn't capitalized, but it would need to be capitalized according to APA. So you see there's two big errors here. And that's because the database PubMed just doesn't follow the APA guidelines. And the system isn't set up that with the citation generator, it doesn't check for accuracy for each of the different parts of a reference entry. So it doesn't check if the titles of journal articles or journals are properly capitalized. It just doesn't have that function. It's not that smart. So we have to be smart here. I want to go back to this first reference quickly. So let's say this would have been a colon here, the comma, and then of course the A would be also capitalized, just like the A over here in a randomized clinical trial. Okay, but it's not, so I'm going to change it back. There we go. And so I do the same thing here with my reference page. If you're doing this manually, which, you can. I'm a big fan of Mendeley. I use it all the time. I've used EndNote in the past. Sometimes for shorter papers, I do it manually, but for longer papers, I wouldn't. And then, of course, I would put this source before this one, right? Because K comes before M. But again, second subsequent lines here are indented by a tab space. So I use the tab space on my keyboard. So this is a really, again, I can't emphasize enough that you can rely on these reference generators in PubMed or in our library catalog or even through Mendeley and EndNote, but you do have to proofread for correctness, especially based on this capitalization rule. And the capitalization rule is the same. If this were a book title, let's go with this one, it's a shorter title. If this were a book title, this would also follow the same capitalization rules. A book title would be italicized, right? Remember, the title of books are italicized just like the title of journals. If this were a website, also in italics, but same capitalization rule that you would use for journal articles, websites, and books follow the same capitalization rules. The title of actual journals or periodicals don't. Okay, so that's the big lesson here for the reference page. So keep this in mind as you're putting together your drafts this week for this class, and we'll give feedback on APA style in your references as well, or we'll point you to some resources where you can look those up. So fear not. We're not super focused on that every comma and everything is properly, capitalized, italicized, personally, but we know that a lot of instructors do care about this, so we want to set you up for success in your future classes as well.